Well, hello there, friends and lovers, and thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir.
Hi.
And you. And we are glad you are here today on this fine Sunday, April 27th. A day that will live on in everything, actually. We're going to talk about that. Sunday, April 27th, the 117th day of this, your best year yet. Yes, the best is still to come. After today, you have how many days left? 248 days left to make this your best year, if it's not already. I'm going to guess for most of you, you're already on track. Christmas is in 242 days, Halloween in 187.
Yes.
Although, I don't know, this year it seems like Halloween has been kind of a constant. And
yeah, it's actually, by the way, it's halfway to Halloween, just about.
Halfway to Halloween, okay.
Yeah. Woo!
Excellent. Summer is in 54 days. If you are north of the equator, if you're south of the equator, you've got 54 days left to enjoy your autumn before winter hits. The next major federal holiday in the United States is Memorial Day, which is interesting to me because summer is still 54 days away, but Memorial Day is just 29 days, and it's kind of the unofficial kickoff of summer. Here in Michigan, it's when the weather is reliably nice if it's not raining. And that brings up next week. Those of you who are in Michigan or who are coming to Michigan to go up to Midland, up to Northwood to see Yaron Brooks speak, we will see you there on Tuesday. And Yaron was good enough to read a super chat in which he was very kind about this show. So if you are joining us for the first time because you are watching Yaron Brooks, welcome. He's right when he says that the show is about benevolence. It's a conversational show. We are topical as well. We will talk about what happened on this day in history and tie it to what is happening on this day now in 2025 and a whole bunch of other things. So if you are here for the first time, welcome. Our regulars are filing into the chat, and I am glad to see you there. Making sure the chat's working on Facebook, where the writer Jim Ashley says, hey, hello, Jim Ashley, good to see you there. And many of my favorite people are in the chat on the YouTube side. Thank you very much for joining us. And on this date, I want to give a big, huge happy birthday to existence itself.
Wow.
It is interesting to go through the interesting things that happened on this date that I do want to tie together, because this is the date on which Johannes Kepler, well, if he was alive today, he would be celebrating the 6,993rd birthday of the universe. Yes, the great German mathematician and astronomer. He did the calculations to figure out when did the universe come into existence. And he figured it out. I got to look at my notes here because the exact date on which everything came, and this wasn't the Big Bang Theory. They didn't have this back then, back in the 1500s. No, he figured out through calculations using the planetary positions and some of this came from the Bible and his belief in a divinely ordered universe where, well, everything must have started with mathematical harmony. You would think a guy who was relying on the insights of Copernicus, the Copernican revolution, which is, well, the revolution that things revolve around the sun and not around the earth. Well, he figured out the math and he said, well, everything was in alignment. And that must be when everything started. In the year 4977 BC. And one of the articles that I looked at where they figured out his calculations was, we now know Kepler's math was off by some 13.7 billion years.
Give or take.
And we can thank the Big Bang Theory for usurping his claim. I guess I'm a believer in the Big Bang Theory, but I don't think that's what started existence itself.
Well,
it didn't start the universe. It just started the universe as we know it.
Right. I mean, the existence has existed forever.
Right.
Funny enough.
and I've always taken kind of a backwards argument for that. when there are people who say, well, everything must have come from somewhere. Oh, you mean there was a somewhere, but there wasn't a something?
Right.
Yeah. So imagine this. Quick thought experiment. Imagine for a second. You look around, you look at the room, look at yourself, look at your clothes, look at your whoever you're hanging out with, or whatever you're doing, your house, your ceiling, if you're outdoors, look at it, whatever you're looking at. Or the screen where you're watching the show. And imagine if it were, and for no reason whatsoever, just causelessly, were to suddenly go out of existence. But not just what's in front of you, everything, and for no reason, were to simply go out of existence. There are people who claim mathematically that is a possibility, but really it's not. And when you think about it, you don't really believe that not just a few things, not just almost everything, but existence itself would simply cease to exist. No, it's not going to happen. That is not what, even if you believe the second law of thermodynamics implies things will run down and, all the energy will be dispersed and things will be kind of gray and boring eventually, it's not all just going to go away.
That entropy reminds me of those toys, when as a kid, in the 70s or 80s, when you basically had that little winder thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like the one with that plastic gear. And
then it eventually just petered out. Well, that's not quite how that works in the world as such.
Yes, well, I've given in a recent episode my answer to the entropy and the Earth, and why the Earth entropy will never be an issue for us because we have external inputs. But point is, the universe isn't just going to stop existing for no reason. So those who say, well, the universe came into existence from nothing for no reason, I give them the same answer. I'm like, no, I can't imagine that, and neither can you. But getting back to Johannes Kepler, the great thinker, the great mathematician, the great astronomer.
Yeah, it was 3,993 BC is when it all started, right?
Really? Let me see here.
Yeah. I looked it up just now, and I don't know. Do we still have
the information I've got is 4,977 BC.
Wow.
Either way, the important thing is, do you have April 27th?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
So this is the date. So happy birthday to existence. Now, that sounds silly, and in a way it is, but the other thing that happened on this day in history, President Lincoln, the great Abraham Lincoln, does something that isn't great. President Lincoln suspends the writ of habeas corpus during the Civil War. Mm-hmm. As some of you will know what habeas corpus is. That's the legal principle that ensures that you cannot be unjustly imprisoned or detained. And what it is it gives you your day in court. It lets you appear in court and say, hey, I'm not guilty. And even if they know you're guilty, they have to give you your day in court. They have to give you that chance to explain, no, it wasn't me, like that song by Shaggy. We'll get to Shaggy in a minute. Habeas corpus is an important legal principle. A writ of habeas corpus is what a lawyer draws up to say, hey, you got this guy in jail. No, get him in court. You got to be able to show that he should be in jail. And there's a whole process, what we call due process. Now, if Abraham Lincoln was so great, I know there's a few people out there who are like, no, he wasn't that great. He wasn't just trying to end slavery. He had other things in mind, too, about the war. He wanted the Union not to be broke up, and etc. No, if Abraham Lincoln was so great, and he was so great, why would he suspend the writ of habeas corpus during the Civil War? And the answer is, he was at war. It was a war. You can't. I love how Yaron pointed this out earlier. I don't know if it was today or I think it was yesterday during his Ask Me Anything. I'm going to recommend that show in a bit. If you're on the battlefield, if you are fighting a war, if you have got lines, arrays, divisions of soldiers lobbing bombs at each other, shooting each other with rifles, you don't stop and say, wait, this guy that I'm shooting at 50 yards away, I need you to come over here and I want to talk to you and put you through a process to confirm, I really should be shooting you. No. Does not apply in the time of war. So for Lincoln on this date to suspend the writ of habeas corpus during the Civil War makes perfect sense. You could count that as an emergency, but I don't even think that's the right term to use for that. April 27th, 1861.
Wow. And I just need to go back. So Stephen in the chat says, how do you use AI in your daily life? Does it help? And you might use it to make a schedule or etc. But I just used AI. Well, I don't quite use AI. I looked up April 27th for Kepler.
Yes.
And it gave me the weird number of 3,993. And I don't know where it got that.
Yeah.
Because I did another search.
Yep.
And it says 4,977 BC.
It's a great question he asked.
So I would say double check or triple check your sources and just make sure that you're getting the right information.
So the answer to the question, how do I use AI in my daily life? The answer is carefully and with some degree of suspicion. The point is, for example, Google's AI, which pops up every time you do a Google search lately, gives you the links from which it got the information. And I would always recommend, if you're going to use that information in any way that matters whatsoever, and the answers aren't obvious of your own firsthand knowledge, click the links. Find out what the AI system took from that article, that website, that essay that it's referencing to say, well, the universe is only 3,900 years old, not 4,900 years old.
James is in the chat. James Valiant's in the chat.
Excellent.
Hey, he says April 27th, but at what time? I'm going to venture a guess.
Ooh, that's a great question.
8:34 a.m.
One of the quirks of Amy and I know you don't want to hear our personal stuff. I'm just kidding. You love our personal stuff. But when Amy and I got together and birthdays came around, and at some point, and early on, Amy said, yeah, when were you born? I said, well, I gave her my birth date. And she said, well, yeah, but what time of day? I said, I have no idea what time of, what do you mean, people know that? And she said, oh, yeah, I know exactly what time of day I was born. And
8:34 a.m.
And
on a Thursday.
I asked my mother, who apparently was there at the time, and she gave me the answer. She said, I think it was, nope. That's the point, is I don't even remember what she told me. Because
I want to say it was like around noon or 2 or something for you.
Tell us in the chat, how many of you know what time of day you were born? So, sorry, the esteemed James Valiant, yeah, I don't know. Don't know the time. I don't know if Kepler knew exactly what
Kepler
time of day.
He was just not one of those people to know what time of day his mother gave him birth.
Dude didn't know what time of day. No, Kepler totally knew what time of day it was, but did he know what time the universe came into? All we know is April 27th, 4977 BC. That big number sounds like science fiction, like it's in the future. No, it's in the past. You're rewinding the clock. Yeah, Kepler, genius, but he was a man of his time. Wow.
We've got a lot of people in the chat who are listing off their times of birth.
See, I guess I just have to acknowledge then, Amy, you're not unusual. I'm just ignorant. It was just never a thing when I was growing up that people knew that. But I think it's very cool that so many of you do know that.
Yes.
Well, yeah, a bunch of them. Eric, Greg, James knows. You know what time you were born. That's pretty wild. Very cool. So, spoiler alert, as I bring up the writ of Habeas Corpus. The spoiler alert is we are not at war.
What?
I know, right? Is that wild? We're not at war. I've got a lot of friends, and some of them are Facebook friends, so they're quote friends, unquote, who are on board with this contemporary idea that seems primarily coming from the right, that we are at war. What do you mean we're at war? Well, we've got a trade war going on, a number of trade wars. And we've got a war going on at the southern border, or at all of the borders, or with people who are already in the country. The claim that current events are like a war, I shouldn't put like in square quotes, because that's all it is. The claim that current events are like a war, that we are essentially or metaphorically at war, or the claim that current events are worse than a war. When it comes to habeas corpus, that comparison doesn't count.
Well, for any conservative friends out there, our PayPal and our Patreon. Just go to robertnasir.com if you want to go ahead and donate and send us a money bomb. And then I'll say that we're at war.
A money bomb. I like that.
A money bomb.
You can be at war with us. If you disagree with Amy's opinion about current events, bomb us with money. I like that.
I like
That's
that.
good.
Yeah.
RobertNasir.com. It's at the very bottom of the page, links to PayPal and Patreon. You can be a patron and pay every month to hear us abuse you. I mean, for your political opinions, for your support of the present administration. No, we don't talk, for those of you who are coming from the Yarn Brook Show, we don't talk that much about politics, but we do talk sometimes about current events, and damn it, you just can't. I wish other things were in the news, and if you look hard enough, they are. So you should totally subscribe to Doomslayer, for example.
Yes, Doomslayer.
Yeah, the project of the Cato Institute. That's a cool newsletter to get. So, we are not at war. Speaking of war, speaking of logistics, happy Morse Code Day. Yes, it is the birthday of Samuel Morse, the guy who figured out if you have just 2 wires and all you got is a switch and all you can do is turn the electricity on and off, and you can do it very fast, you could send letters and alphabet and numbers and symbols if you made up a code of just pressing that button down and releasing it real quick. Or, if you were really clever, press it down and hold it for a little bit. And then release it. You could have a dot and a dash, and you can make a whole alphabet and number system out of dots and dashes. And you could render something like da 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 da. Yes, you could write YYZ in Morse code.
And you could even feature that into a song.
Yes, of course, if you look at the show notes, YouTube description, Facebook description, you will see my link for Happy Morse Code Day is actually a link to the Rush song YYZ, because it's always a good day to celebrate Rush.
True.
And Happy Morse Code Day.
I don't yet see Jennifer in the chat, but I'm sure she'll pop up.
Yeah, or listen later. And she, of course, will already know that the rhythm of the riff at the beginning of the song YYZ are the letters YYZ in Morse code. Very cool. So happy Morse Code Day. But I love the science of that. I love that all we had was an on-off switch and 2 wires, and we could actually send text. Too cool. In the 1800s. Samuel Morse lived until 1872, age 80. It's also the birthday of Herbert Spencer, a philosopher. Ellsworth Toohey would say it this way: to quote a philosopher we do not like. And Herbert Spencer is one of those philosophers we do not like. But he's interesting. He's interesting reading. He did say, opinion is ultimately determined by the feelings, not by the intellect. Oh, really?
Yes.
Is that just what you feel, or did you figure that out using your intellect? Herbert Spencer. Tell that to Ben Shapiro with his, facts don't care about your feelings. I've always hated the expression, facts don't care about your feelings, but it is a good answer to Herbert Spencer. And if he was reading Spencer, I can see why he would come up with that. He's also the one who said, this survival of the fittest implies multiplication of the fittest. The phrase survival of the fittest was not originated by Charles Darwin, although Spencer had read Darwin, and Darwin agreed with the formulation about the survival of the fittest. Spencer, if that's not modern and collectivist enough for you, also said, no one can be perfectly happy until all are happy.
Oh, wow. I guess Herbert was not very happy.
Spence, you were so close, because, there are several great aphorisms very close to that, like, ain't nobody happy unless mama's happy, which is obviously a universal truth. But, no one can be perfect. First of all, nobody can be perfectly happy, not in the sense I think that this quote implies. And second of all, unless all are happy, there's 8 billion people, well, who knows how many there were in Spencer's day, born on this date in 1820, but yeah, all sorts of Spencer quotes. There's a bunch in the show notes there.
Here, how about this? Well, there's 2 other facts about Herbert Spencer.
Okay.
Is that
give me the facts, but then I'm going to give you the one good Herbert Spencer quote.
All right. He was, I believe it says here he was a Quaker. So he did quaking and things.
Yes, very self-disciplined, I'm sure.
And he ate oats.
Oh.
No, seriously. He also, believe this or not, Spencer invented a precursor to the modern paperclip.
Oh, well.
Amazing. Yes, it looked more like a modern cotter pin. Cotter pin. This binding pin was distributed by Ackerman and Company. Spencer now shows drawings of the pin in Appendix 1 of his autobiography.
I wonder if that predated the clothespin. That's hard to imagine. But good on here. Here's a quote I actually like. Herbert Spencer here. Those who cavalierly reject the theory of evolution as not adequately supported by facts seem quite to forget that their own theory is supported by no facts at all. Sounds like something that Christopher Hitchens might have said, so I like that one. Anyway, yeah, Spencer, what a disaster. What a philosophical disaster. But we say happy birthday or good riddance or something like that on April 27th.
Yeah.
A couple other birthdays real quick. And as always, we're going to tie these concepts together. It is Ulysses S. Grant's birthday.
Oh, very nice. Who is buried in Grant's tomb?
Yeah, who is buried
Please
in Grant's tomb?
Please go ahead and chime in on the comments.
Yes, tell us. Born on this date in 1822, of course, Union General, 18th U.S. President. He was also, after his presidency, he was the president of the National Rifle Association from 1883 to 84, which I did not know. Interesting. Imagine the president of the United States then going on. Imagine this for a second. See if you can imagine this. Imagine the president of the United States then going on to actually hold a real job, or at least a real position. I don't know. That's pretty damn cool. He is praised with winning the Civil War as a Union general, fighting for civil rights during Reconstruction, and battling the Ku Klux Klan. No mean feat in his time. Very cool. So happy birthday to the late Grant.
Yes. Yeah,
Ulysses S. Grant. Yes.
I'd like to I need to look into the history books a little bit more about that and how he fought the KKK. The KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. If you ever read anything that they promoted, they kind of fashioned themselves as sort of like an altruistic Rotary Club, but then they piled on a whole bunch of other horrible racist things, of course, which is what they're known for. But it's just interesting to me that yet another one of these organizations like this is using altruism as a somehow to justify their actions. So
yes,
always.
John in the chat says, "Don't you dare get happy until I am." John, we're gonna mention you, I think, in a bit. A couple of your posts, I think, it may be in my notes. We'll see in a minute here. And yes, and how dare you be happy?
Yeah.
Another note here I was going to read. Now, where did it go?
Well, Stephen Katz says that University of Pennsylvania team, they have a team called the Fighting Quakers, and it's pretty ironic since Quakers were pacifists. I wonder if they've won any games.
Yes. Yeah, Paul was saying something about Morse code. Oh, right. No, lost it again. What did Paul say about Morse code?
I don't know, Paul. What'd you say about Morse code?
He mentioned semaphore, said that instant communication, this was what Morse code gave us. Before that, all you had were semaphores. I don't know if any of you have seen flags, flag codes.
Yes, it was telegraphy that introduced mankind in general to the concept of instant communications, other than semaphores that presented all kinds of problems, perhaps. Yeah.
Yes.
Fun.
And smoke signals.
Yeah, and mirrors, mirrors reflecting sunlight out your window.
But yes, instant communication. Electricity, curiously, goes through some mediums slower than the speed of light, but close enough to instant. And very, very cool. So, a couple other birthdays real quick that I will not go into, but I've got to mention. It is Prokofiev's birthday, Sergei Prokofiev, if you are a fan of the writer of, for example, the ballet Romeo and Juliet. I knew him from grade school. Some of you might have got your introduction to classical music like I did. When the teacher would put on a vinyl record out, don't laugh, we've got a record player right here in the studio, a vinyl record of Peter and the Wolf. Prokofiev's. It was almost like he wrote that to teach classical music to kids. Jack Klugman had his birthday today. Oscar from The Odd Couple, or Quincy if you saw that old show. Casey Kasem, I mentioned Shaggy. Well, not the musician, but no, the character. The character from Scooby-Doo. Yes, Casey Kasem, and also the voice of American Top 40. We just lost him in 2014. He did live to be 82. That's a good life. Yep. Larry Elder is still with us, and he is 73 years old today. And one more birthday that I almost missed.
Oh, until I gave it to you.
Until Amy, you gave it to me. Whose birthday is it today?
That is, tell me again.
Yes, the birthday of Kate Pearson.
Kate Pearson. I was going to say Cindy Pearson because the other lady's name is Cindy.
The other gal from the B-52s.
Kate Pearson, great singer, wonderful presence. She's still going. She's 77 years old.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, she's still, and it's interesting, they're not touring anymore. They announced they were, and then they had a residency in Las Vegas for a while.
That is right.
But you think, okay, well, when they're done with the residency, then they're retired, right? She's 78 years old. They're all... No, actually, they were on the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live.
Really?
Which was a great episode this year that I have not finished watching all the way through. I need to finish that.
Yeah, I haven't watched it.
I've just been watching the clips on the internet, so all the different segments are on there.
Right.
If you didn't see SNL 50... Even if you're not a fan of contemporary Saturday Night Live, which, I'm mixed about that, the 50th anniversary edition show was really, really awesome. And, performed Love Shack at SNL 50, the homecoming concert.
Yeah, they should have had Fear back on with Leaving.
That would have been horrible. But Fear did make an appearance on SNL, and it was famously bad, but they were there. What's interesting about them appearing on Saturday Night Live is, that their original drummer passed away.
Yes.
Or excuse me, their original guitarist passed away, Ricky Wilson.
Yeah.
And so the drummer actually became the guitar player.
Yes.
He basically moved up to the front line. And so you're like, well, who's the drummer? And they brought in other drummers. Well, for SNL 50, they had Fred Armisen on drums.
Yeah, that's right. I did read about that.
How cool is that? I love that Fred Armisen is actually an accomplished musician because he's so silly, but he's also really good.
Well, if you're going to mention Fred Armisen, I have to mention No Means No, my favorite hardcore punk rock band, jazz fusion punk rock band from Canada. And Fred Armisen actually wrote the foreword to their to the recent book that was released out about No Means No, which is great.
No, Ian says, I miss the skeptical version of the Scooby Gang. I don't know, is that a reference to the original series and how they would always be skeptical of mysticism? The early episodes of Scooby-Doo, it always turned out to be, somebody they would unmask. It would be, the groundskeeper or, the butler or something like that. It was never the mystical ghost, the spooky thing, because there was always spooky things going on. And later on in the series, it was kind of like what they did to Fantasy Island. All the stuff that was mystical, they actually let you think some of it was really mystical or left it unanswered, like maybe it really was a ghost. That might be what Ian's talking about.
Or if he's referencing a cynical version of Scooby-Doo, he might be talking about Velma with Mindy Kaling.
Oh,
which isn't.
Never saw that.
I don't recommend it.
Good, then I won't watch it. So yes, lots of good birthdays today. Under shameless self-promotion, what are we watching this week? I put a link in. I came across, and it's been out there all this time, we've got a copy of a book, a big, thick book called, Yaron mentioned us on the show. Well, I paid him to, but that means we have a lot of Ayn Rand fans watching tonight.
Yes.
Letters of Ayn Rand.
Oh, yeah.
The big volume, Letters of Ayn Rand. You're like,
yes.
Every letter they had collected with a few rare exceptions, but it's all in there. Well, it turns out, years after they released the book, they found more letters, the Ayn Rand Institute.
Oh.
And what's great is, no, they didn't release a second edition of the book. The book is still great, and it's huge, and it's got everything, except not everything. It's all on the web now. You could actually read the book, Letters of Ayn Rand, on the internet, and I put a link in there to it. That first chapter that I've linked to includes the 2 letters that Ayn Rand wrote to Frank O'Connor.
Oh.
When he went out of town without her for something he had to do, and she stayed home to keep writing. It is so freaking sweet. Oh my gosh.
I haven't read this yet.
You'll recognize it when you see it, because it's the picture of her as a cat crying with a can tied to her tail.
Oh, I recognize that image.
And Oscar and Oswald are crying, but they won't talk to her.
So there's a whole letter that's attached to that?
Yeah, two letters. Yes. Ayn Rand draws herself as a little kitten, a little cat.
I just want to...
well, you got to go look at it right now. So, super sweet. It's in the show notes under shameless self-promotion of what are we listening to this week. Even though I'm not listening to it, I'm reading it. The shameless part of it is my episode of Life on Earth called I Don't Know. And it came up in the John Galt Line Facebook group. I had to mention this essay that I actually was an episode of my show as well. That is in there. And finally, a link to Yaron Brooks' show from today, which is a great show. It's a great episode, but he mentions us, so it's even greater than that. And so you should watch that. And then you would think, well, you've also got a link under Hot Topics for the week. But that's the one I want to talk about and tie all of these other things together. You'll see a link to a post on Substack by Carrie Ann Biondi called The Fits and Starts of Friendship.
Guys, there's so much stuff I need to catch up on. I've been busy this week with flamenco.
Well, I'm going to mention it, and that's all you need to know for this discussion. But yes, you will want to read that post. Carrie Ann Biondi, for some of you who don't know, she's an objectivist. She's also a professor. I love objectivists who are actual philosophy professors, because some people say, well, Robert, you're not a PhD. Why should we listen to you talk about philosophy? And I say, well, we don't talk about philosophy on the show. We talk about life. But Carrie Ann Biondi actually has a PhD, and in her case, it doesn't mean phony doctor. It actually does mean she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, I would consider her to be a scholar of Aristotle.
She is a scholar of Aristotle. She's written on Aristotle. She's written essays. She's published. So Carrie Ann Biondi, if you get the chance to meet her, she's charming. She's super cute. She's bubbly. She's friendly. One thing you might not guess about her is that, like me, she's extremely reserved. She's an introvert. She is very shy. And so the subtitle of this Substack post that she did, The Fits and Starts of Friendship, is, or Aristotle on why character friendship is one of life's greatest goods. And she starts out by saying, some folks seem to make friends easily and naturally. I was not, and still am not, one of them. God, did that resonate with me. And reading both her Facebook post, which I did link to in the show notes, and her essay on Substack, yeah, I totally identified with that.
I gotta say, I mean, it's it was very easy for me to be friends with Carrie Ann Biondi because we love Yes and John Anderson so much.
We did have a common value there.
And I mean, there was a point where I think we were walking around Cleveland when Ocon was in Cleveland, and we were just reciting to each other the lyrics of John Anderson's.
And getting all choked up.
Yeah, and getting all choked up, and just like, it was just...
Why would you cry in front of people you don't even know? Because we are kindred spirits.
Yes, well, it was like floating on air, really, and happy tears and everything. It was just so lovely.
Yeah.
So I mean, so if you have a really deep value like that, and you can relate to somebody like that, that's just the best thing ever.
And those people, you might think, well, I'm unique. I'm so weird that I'm so unusual. I'm so different. I'm not going to find kindred spirits out there. There's one way to ensure that you will never find the kindred spirits who are out there, and that is to never look for them. And I know it's hard to open up to that because of the repeated disappointments. It's like when you go on job interviews. I don't know about you and the community you're in or the part of world you're in, but in my case, you got to plan on going on 50 job interviews in order to get 5 offers. I'm like, what do you mean? You're going to sit through 45 interviews where they don't even call you back, or maybe they do, but they're not interested? Yeah. And then out of those 5 interviews, maybe you'll get 2 that will be, they'll make an offer, and one that's an offer worth it. Point is, it's a numbers game. Same thing with friendship. And most people will be friendly if you go to not just a party, but, a meetup, an event where you can see people who are interested in the same things you are. We used to call them SIGs, special interest groups. And you can do this online, but it's even better in person if you can find somewhere around you where, for example, say a club where they have karaoke night. And if you meet enough people, eventually you'll meet some that resonate. And if you meet enough that resonate, eventually you'll find some who resonate deeply, who will vibe with you. Okay, I don't know what vibe means. Everybody's using the word vibe and vibing, and I get a vibe, but...
Well, there's all sorts of adjectives with that. And vibing is just another... Oftentimes people say nowadays, instead of the very old word, which is groovy. Groovy. Isn't this like, that gives me vibes, is what they
gives
say.
You vibes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. Folks know I'm allergic to neologisms, but I also have fun with them now and then.
Yes, you do.
Or I make fun of them, or both. So we had a gig last night. And it wasn't a rock and roll gig, although we have a rock and roll picnic coming up. And it wasn't a flamenco gig, although we have one of those next week. No, it was a karaoke DJing gig.
Yes.
We emceed a wedding reception.
Yes. It was a very casual wedding reception, but it was just the best karaoke gig we've ever had in our entire lives.
And we've hosted a lot of karaoke.
We've hosted karaoke at Ocon, and I just got to say, that's fun. But this
was last night better than Ocon karaoke?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
that's setting a high standard, because we had a great time with karaoke at Ocon.
Oh yeah, I mean it's fun. The one element that was missing last night, which is a good thing, which is that we didn't have to cajole anybody. We didn't have to bring anybody out of their shell. We didn't have to beg and plead for people to come up and sing.
No, that's true.
We didn't have to come up and fill time singing ourselves. And
that's true. We never got up and sang, which is unusual for us.
Which is kind of crazy.
But we were hired help. So
yes, we were the help. But it was great, and everybody was so enthusiastic. We got through, I think, at least 5 full pages of a lined sign-up sheet.
Yes,
there was a lot. It was karaoke. I mean, it was karaoke from 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. So 3.5 hours of packed, just ongoing karaoke. It was great.
Yeah, and okay, I'm making it sound like, they went out and they hosted a karaoke party. That doesn't sound like they invested much in it. They didn't put much into it. Well, we're talking about tons of equipment, powered speakers, and, you people who do live events, you will know, monitors and 5 microphones. We had 4 microphones for singers to use, wireless HDMI transmitters so the lyrics could be displayed in multiple places, and laptop and mixer and stage lights.
4 wireless mics.
Yeah. And some of the songs, this is a party, a lot of party music.
Yes.
A lot of contemporary music. There were songs I'd never heard before being less contemporary than some of the people that were there. But quite a few of the songs had the theme of justice. There's so much justice in songs, and you don't necessarily think of it that way. For example, there was a song by Chappell Rowan called "My Kink is Karma."
I didn't even notice that.
My
that
kink
name of that
is
song.
Karma.
Chappell Rowan, I think it's...
Chappell Rowan.
Yeah.
And that's what got me thinking about that Substack post by Carrie Ann Biondi on the fits and starts of friendship. Because I realized that, and I mentioned this to Carrie Ann, and you'll see this on her Facebook post if you look it up. Being super shy, super introverted, very insecure like I am, I've had to, compensate for that. And I can give you, and I have before, tips and tricks and strategies and ways to bring out your own most gregarious self despite, if you think you have a bit of a wallflower personality. But what I've realized over the course of time is that some of it becomes habit. You get good at it and you can keep doing it, you can roll with it, but it never really comes naturally. Not if you have a temperament like I do, like a lot of us have. Mm-hmm. You can do it, you can get good at it, but it's not natural. It's not, it doesn't quite get to all the roots.
Yeah, I have to say that I felt a bit shy last night, and
yeah.
I was going up and basically saying, okay, let's have Alex come up next, and and I tried to put on my best radio voice, and I tried to be like gregarious, but the only thing anybody wanted to hear from me was their name. So it's not like we were making jokes or anything like that, but it was very, very good. And one of our jobs was to sit there and just kind of encourage people and clap and encouraging other people to encourage other people, which, by the way, we're pretty darn good at. So it worked out, and we got a lot of compliments, and it was very fulfilling.
Oh, sorry, I'm late in seeing this comment from Jim Ashley, and I always like a good joke. Who's buried in Grant's tomb? Rose on the Golden Girls said. Oh, it's Cary Grant, of course. Love that. I'm just looking to see real quick if I can find that post from the John Galt line.
Well, while you do that, Jim is asking about my glasses, and my glasses are
new glasses. Yeah,
they're probably not the most platonically ideal glasses.
Oh, they're awesome. They're very different, and different is good.
They're very different. They're a little bigger, and they've got like bright white specks all around, so they look kind of like, Robert thinks they look like paint chips or something, but if you look at them, they just look very different. I don't know, there's a real kind of Devo-esque nerdy side of me. I wouldn't call myself a nerd. I'm a punk rocker, so it's very, very much like that. And there are new prescriptions, and it's been over like.
Has it been a week?
It's been over a week. It's been over a week.
Man, getting used to new prescriptions, is that just the worst or what?
It's just been really difficult trying to wear these.
Yeah.
But I think I'm finally getting used to them, and now I can see things very clearly.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. So. Don't sing anymore, we'll get a copyright strike. I mentioned that in the context of talking about getting out there and getting what you deserve from the social spheres, I mentioned that John was in the chat and that I would bring up his post. He put it, see, I'm now violating privacy. I usually don't mention names if I'm going to read a question from the John Galt line because it's a private forum. But John doesn't say anything controversial. He's really just asking a question. Is Ayn Rand's interpersonal ethics transactional? Because it emphasizes the trader principle, even in non-economic contexts like friendship and romance. And I'm not going to give his answer because this was a private question, although he's welcome to say so in the chat. But I thought it was a great question. It was actually originally asked by somebody else, but John brought it to the group of incredibly intelligent and astute people who hang out in the John Galt line group. If you're an Ayn Rand fan and objectivist on Facebook, you should be part of that group. I know there's a few people out there who will say, well, I was part of that group and this thing happened and so I left. But I get that too. It's all good. Only thing I want to say about that is, and this relates to what we're talking about, especially with karaoke parties and Carrie Ann Biondi, Ayn Rand's ethics, or just more broadly, any ethics of justice, any ethics of fairness, any ethics of you get what you deserve. Yeah, friendship and even romance is a trade. You get what you give. And if you're in a relationship where you never get what you give, you are giving all the time to the point where it's a sacrifice and not a trade, yeah, you should probably get out of that relationship. Why would you want that? Why would you stick around? I'm in love, or I just really hope that someday I'll get what I deserve. Well, somebody out there will give it to you. If it's not that person, go find someone else. But it's not transactional. Transactional implies that for everything you do, you regard it as a transaction. And at some point, if you've given a couple of foot rubs and you don't get one back, no more foot rubs until you get 3 for the 3 that you gave. And
Robert's trying to tell me something.
I do give a lot of foot rubs, but my point is, it's not transactional, and I don't want
Right.
handshakes to be transactional. I don't want hugs to be transactional. I certainly don't want anything more intimate.
Yeah.
But I don't want anything to be transactional. I do want it to be a trade. I don't want it to be just. I do want it to be fair. I want it to be win-win.
Well, I'll say this. It brings to mind the phrase tit for tat.
Yes.
Or the checklist.
I used tit for tat in my answer, actually.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and checklist, yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I have friends that are that I'm still close with, even though I haven't seen them for like a year. And sometimes I feel bad or they feel bad. They're like, oh, I really wish that we could just get together. I know life has been busy, and it's like, actually the one lady who was the bride last night, who hosted the karaoke party, or hosted, well, yeah, I mean, she did. She told me this. She said, I'm really bad at remembering about getting back to people and making arrangements to see them again. So I'm going to take, we want to take you and Robert to dinner, and I want you to promise me that you're going to bug me about it. So I gave her double pinky swears a la Drop Dead Fred, which means, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll just say this: it means a lot.
That means a lot.
This is like the what do they call in Harry Potter? The
unbreakable vow.
The unbreakable vow.
Yes.
Except nobody dies. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So it's really important to know yourself, to know what your expectations are for yourself and for other people, and to be honest about that. Yeah.
I mentioned that Letters of Ayn Rand was online now at Ayn Rand Institute. Another book that's online, which is another one of these books where if you are the kind of person who thinks that Ayn Rand was harsh or cold or angry or wasn't successful in applying her own ideas to find happiness in her own life, you need to read these books. Even more than reading, which you absolutely have to do, her more serious works, you need to read Letters of Ayn Rand, and you need to read Facets of Ayn Rand. You need to read that book by Marianne and Charles Surridge.
Oh,
and it's now available online.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, you can read Facets of Ayn Rand online. And one of the things that Marianne and Charles relay from their relationship with Ayn Rand is that Ayn Rand would never say, we should do lunch, unless she meant it.
Yeah.
And if she didn't have her pocket calendar with her, she would ask you to make sure to remind her to write it down and set a date. It was never just, oh, yeah, we should get together sometime. No, to her, it meant something.
Yes.
So I love this idea that, the bride said, well, for this fantastic, amazing, super wonderful, I don't know if she said that, for the good job that you guys did as MCs, as karaoke masters, KJs, karaoke jockeys, we got to take you guys out to dinner. And she meant it. And you guys pinky sweared it.
Double pinky swear.
We've done a whole show where we asked the question, do nice guys finish last? When we were talking about masculinity and femininity. And I said, well, that depends on whether nice guys engage with reality. Fortune favors the bold. So are we talking about nice guys who are kind of meek and mild and don't go out to karaoke bars, or don't host karaoke parties, or don't at least meet people who want to talk to them about the same things they're interested in? Then nice guys finish last. But to me, that's not nice, and those aren't nice guys. No, fortune favors the bold. And it's not a philosophical principle. Somebody was saying, if everybody holds the same philosophy, are they all the same kind of person? Somebody on Facebook is kind of obsessed with this right now. This idea that, well, if this philosophy, any philosophy, but let's talk Ayn Rand's philosophy, objectivism, if the philosophy is complete, well, then there are no more important questions to answer. And I don't think that really I don't think the person who would wonder that fully understands what philosophy is.
Right.
It's like if I gave you the owner's manual for your car and then said, given that you have that manual, I now know where you're going to drive and how fast you're going to drive and what style of driving you're going to do and whether anybody else is going to drive your car, whether you're going to drive alone or with somebody else. No, the owner's manual and presumably some driving lessons, the manual for that, just tells you, okay, now you can drive your car. You can get where you want to go. Where do you want to go? That's entirely up to you. What kinds of places do you want to go? What style?
Right.
What method? What?
Are you going to pimp your ride or not?
Yes, exactly. And the point is that there are valid answers for that. Are you going to be interested in presenting style at every occasion? Are you going to wear nice clothes? Are you going to stand up straight? Are you going to speak clearly and articulately and as a gentleman, maybe with some depth in your voice? 1,000, 100,000 different things, whatever the elements are of a life. Endless variables within the context of a single philosophy. And boldness. Fortune favors the bold. Boldness is one of those elements. I'm not telling anybody, you should be more bold, more risk tolerant, get out there and do more things. But I kind of am if you feel, you see, you know in your life that there is opportunity there. When Carrie Ann Biondi published her post, my first thought was, I'm not doing as much as I could. Mm-hmm. I don't know, Amy, would you agree that our winter was a little more cloistered than it? We did things.
Yeah.
And we've got events and the photographs on Facebook to prove it.
And there were real reasons why we were cloistered.
Yeah, but we had Glow every month, and we went to the Detroit Opera House, and we did things.
Yeah,
but
we skipped February Glow.
But we could have done more.
Yeah, but there are reasons why we didn't.
So when I say we could have done more, I'm not condemning us. And if any of you out there are thinking, I could do more, I'm not condemning you either. I'm just putting it out there. And I hope when I say it, that you, like me, when I hear myself say it, will say, oh, yeah, I need to keep saying yes to every opportunity I get, or at least the ones that have something to offer me. Do nice guys finish last? Hell no. As long as nice doesn't stop you also from being bold, from taking your chances, from finding those friendships that you deserve. All of the tips, tricks, techniques, strategies, rules, all the things I can give you for how to, as an introverted person, a shy person, a withdrawal person, a wallflower, how to get out of all that and at least get to where you're comfortable giving somebody a firm handshake, looking them straight in the eye and saying, hey, how are you doing today? And, you like that. Let's talk about that. Oh, that was interesting. Yeah. We should get together for lunch. We should get together for dinner. I should go to that bar that you go to where you sing karaoke, and maybe after going there once or twice and watching how it happens, actually get up there and belt out some tunes. And it was great last night because we had all levels of talent. We had people who you could tell were really good at this. And yet those same people made, they made their share of mistakes, but they were really good. And then we had a few other people who you could tell they were not natural singers. But it was great. They were up there doing it anyway.
It's one of those...
And I love it because they loved it, they enjoyed it, and everybody loved seeing them do it.
Yeah, there's something about karaoke where you really love a song and you really love singing it. You may not have the best voice in the world, but just by the experience of getting up, hearing your voice amplified, using a microphone, having karaoke where the vocals are out, taken out of it, and there's your voice, and you get to have the floor, and really, you're kind of paying homage to the band or the artist or the song that you really love. And it may have a personal meaning for you. And it's just a wonderful, very selfish... Karaoke is one of the more selfish acts. Rationally selfish acts. It is just wonderful. But back to the idea of transactional in human relationships. Yeah, there is no tit for tatting. And going back to the word vibing. The idea of a... There really is. It's not. Human relationships should not be transactional in that sense of having an account sheet, as it were. But the thing is that when you think of somebody and you think of them and they're the fact that they just exist makes you happy and puts a smile on your face. That is just the gift that keeps on giving, is what it is, and that psychological visibility that you get is absolutely wonderful. It's not transactional in that sense. It's what is exponential values. I've used that term. I don't know. I don't think a lot of people in objectivism use the term exponential values, but that is what that is. So just by the very fact of a person's presence, that they exist, that they're out in the world, and you know that, and you know what kind of person they are and their style of living and their sense of life, it's just a wonderful thing just to know that.
It is a force multiplier, as you suggest.
Yes.
You don't get tit for tat. Arguably, you don't get justice. You get trade. And the interesting thing about a trade is you don't trade with people for the exact same things you give them. What you get back is more, otherwise you wouldn't make the trade. Yaron Brook likes to say his iPhone that he paid $1,000 for, I think right now the really good one is like $1,200. I'm sure he paid a little more, but point is $1,000 for is worth a hell of a lot more than $1,000 to him. And the people selling it, the folks at Apple, that $1,000 is actually worth more than whatever they put into making the phone. When you have a friendship, it's not an even trade. You know who gets more? It's not even. You know who gets more? Both of you. It's a win-win relationship.
Yes.
It is a force multiplier.
Yes.
Here's my answer to the post from the John Galt line. The use of transactional is stretching the concept too far. Yes, social relationships are a value and should be rewarding, just, fair, but win-win. And in that sense, yeah, they are a trade, but many, make that most, relationships aren't tit for tat. See, I did use that phrase. In good relationships, you don't get as good as you give. You get far more, as do those you deal with.
Yes.
There's no loss. It's all win. It's all good. That's what win-win means. And sometimes what you give, and here's why it's not transactional, sometimes what you give goes to somebody other than the individual you receive from.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you get phrases like, cast your bread upon the waters and it will return to you manyfold. Okay, it's from the Bible, but that's actually true. It's fine because as long as, relationships aren't transactional in that way.
I'd rather cast my bread on some French onion soup.
Cast your bread upon the French onion soup and it will return to you with melted toasted cheese on top. But seriously, as long as nobody's actually sacrificing or otherwise being taken advantage of, it is all good. It's like making investments, which is why you need to listen to Yaron's show from today, because he talks about that concept of, it's really crazy. I've been involved in objectivism for so long that when I hear sacrifice, I immediately think investment. Nobody's really sacrificing. You put in your time and your energy, or you open yourself up to possible friendships, and sure, it's an effort, and it feels kind of akin to sort of a sacrifice, except you get so much back. It's not a sacrifice, it's an investment. Or you work really hard at work, but eventually you get a promotion or a raise, or you decide that job isn't giving you what you deserve, but what you get out of it is the knowledge that, oh yeah, that wasn't the right place, let me go somewhere where they appreciate me. Or you get in relationships, and again, the exact same thing. It's all win. So yeah, Carrie Ann Biondi is absolutely right. Friendships aren't always easy to get into, but they are always worth the effort, and it all comes back to you.
Yeah, you mentioned in the show notes the pepper seeds grow pepper plants.
Yes. Well, it's because I was thinking of all these songs that talk about justice, and one of them is on Jan Anderson's latest album. There's a song called Realization Part 2. And people are asking him, well, where was Realization Part 1? There is no Realization Part 1.
Really?
Yeah. And it's weird that he gives that answer, because given the sequencing of the album, the song before that is really kind of the Part 1. It's a similar theme, and it's in the same key, and the only difference is one song is in 3/4, the other one's in 4/4. But in this song, Realization Part 2, John Anderson sings, what you put in, you get out of it. You realize at some point that what you put out there comes back to you. What you put in, you get out of it. If you're in a situation where that's not true, where you're sacrificing, where you're not getting anything back, where you are, what was the phrase from the Fountainhead? that Frank O'Connor originally said to Ayn Rand about her personal situation.
You're putting your
pearls before swine. That's what it is.
And you're only getting a pork chop.
And you're not even getting a pork chop in return. Yeah. So if you're in that kind of situation where it really is a sacrifice, nothing in it for you, it's all obligation, it's all duty. Yeah, get out of that, or end it, or get through it and make it stop as soon as you can. But that's not life. That's not what you get from work. I go to work, I get money back. Oh, that didn't seem like that great. What can you do with the money that you get? You can do anything. You can do amazing things. I don't get that much money, though. But still, all of the options are open to you. All of the options are yours. Hell, here in the United States, and this is probably true around the world, all the power is in your hands because you can walk out of any job you want. Mm-hmm. Well, then I wouldn't have any money. Yeah, but the difference is if they want to fire you, usually they have to give a reason. They have to write you up a few times or justify it in some way or worry about you taking them to court. Whereas in the employee, you hold all the cards. Well, they have all the money. That's okay. That's not the power. The power is you have total control. Anyway, point is you get what you give. And if you're not getting what you give, if you're not getting what you deserve in return for everything you give, change the situation. Absolutely. So if you plant... Here I'll wrap up with this because we're well into it.
We need to keep going.
Well... And I haven't kept an eye on the chat in the last few minutes here either. But let me give you this thought. If you plant pepper seeds, so you want to grow green peppers, for example, and you plant pepper seeds, what kind of plant are you going to get? Will you get a head of lettuce?
No.
Will you get a tree? No, you probably get a pepper plant.
Yes, wise words.
Now, you might plant 24 pepper seeds and you might only get, 16 plants.
Right.
If things go badly enough, you might only get a few plants. But you will get back what you give. Yes. What you get back will have the character of what you put into it. If you don't get very many pepper plants, if God forbid, you listening? If you don't get any plants, well, what do you do if you don't get any plants? You give up and decide life sucks. No, you just change your strategy. I think Anthony Robbins would say, you change your approach. And the point is you change things. You say, okay, Why didn't that work? Oh, okay, I can see now. I didn't water them regularly, or the soil I put them in was some old stuff that was all dried out that I found in the garage, or whatever reason it didn't work. And if you don't know why it didn't work, well, then you go on the internet and you ask ChatGPT why it didn't work. And then, as we said earlier, you check ChatGPT's answers because they're often wrong, but it's a starting point. So yes, you get pepper plant. You get back what you put out there. And if you're not getting it, find out why.
I mean, you can certainly find out why you're not getting what you want back, but in general, and this is my statement to myself is embrace causality, embrace the law of identity, or embrace causality. That's my mantra for today or this week or my whole life. Yes, if you want something different, figure out what it is and figure out steps to go about it, and be reliable, be punctual, be a hard worker, have an excellent work ethic, be reliable, and you may not get everything that you want from people. Some people are not necessarily the most observant or the most bright, or they may not even be of good character, as we say. Yeah. But you just have to keep going and try to get the attention of the better people.
And as I mentioned, what kind of person is an objectivist? What kind of person is an egalitarian? What kind of person is any given philosophy? And the answer is it's as broad as people on Earth. I mean, obviously, an objectivist is not a complete parasite, a complete schlub, but although he might be a shoob. But the point is, the range is really, really broad. It came up in a conversation with, I think it was Eric in the chat. We have multiple objectivist groups in Michigan, and not every one of those groups matches everybody's kind of temperament and what they're looking for. And that's fine. You got to find not just people, but your kind of people too.
Right.
And so again, it's not just you find a bunch of people and they're great or they're not great. Are they your kind of people?
Right.
So, and there are so many out there that you just can't find them because, they're too rare. But yeah, not everybody's going to be your kind of person. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a terrible person. It certainly doesn't mean that you're a terrible person. It just means, some people are aggressive and some people are more withdrawn, or some people are more sensitive and some people are more coarse. Some people are more athletic. Some people are more artistic. There's endless variety out there.
Right.
Fortunately, some of the people that we know we are close to, they do have very different interests than ours, but similar temperaments.
Very true. And, actually there have been a couple of friends on Facebook who have been unfriending, pruning their friend plants, and as it were. And one of the things is I've posted, on their walls basically saying, you don't need to justify that to me or anybody else that you're unfriending people or why or what the proper criteria is. You can unfriend people for any reason, and that's up to you. That's of course, you always try to figure out a rational standard. You don't necessarily do anything in anger or on impulse. But there are certain things that I've unfriended people for, and it's not just for moral issues. It can be because they are perhaps not very gracious, or they're inelegant,
yes.
Or what they said was it was not congruous to being my kind of person. So it's okay. It can be a more of a personal or stylistic standard, for sure. So you don't have to justify yourself to other people when you do that.
You definitely don't need to justify yourself to other people. Let's see. It looks like, I guess folks are handling that, but Jim says, on the subject of getting what you deserve, that's what I liked about the ending of The Razor's Edge by M. Somerset Maugham. Everyone gets not only what they deserve, but also what they really wanted all along. And he goes on, I have to admit, I have not read The Razor's Edge. I haven't even seen the Bill Murray film of it, but maybe I need to do that. He also says, fortune may favor the bold, but as I think a great photographer once said, chance favors the prepared mind. I know Will Rogers once said that luck is for the ill-prepared. But other people, and it may also have been him, have also said luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And I think he said a lot about luck, or I may have the sources wrong. The harder I work, the luckier I get. So, yes, absolutely. And there was one other thing he said. Oh, he's going back to the metaphysics here. Where do pepper plants come from? Pepper seeds. Where do pepper seeds come from? Pepper plants. Where do both come from? The universe. Where did the universe come from? Itself. Did the universe, unquote Jim Ashley, did the universe pull itself out of its own belly button? I don't know. Now you've really got me wondering here.
Okay.
Yes. Was there an issue on YouTube?
It looks like Jennifer can't access YouTube right now, but other people can.
Yeah, it looks like so. I'm definitely there making a fool out of myself. I mean, being charming. So, yeah, we definitely.
No, I don't think we were down. I think it may have just been.
Maybe a bad link that I posted somewhere or something. But we are there, Jennifer, doing.
But Jennifer's now
doing our thing. Now I can
on Facebook.
Yeah, and we are into overtime. What do you mean overtime? Like we even have a time? Well, we're at 14 times 5 minutes. So, yes, we're still going through the chat here, but I think we may have made the point here. Again, even if you are super shy like me, get out there and host a karaoke party and put on your big MC voice. No, that wouldn't be my MC voice. My MC voice is more like the radio voice. That's right, like Casey Kasem on America's Top 40. You can do that too. If I can do it, I know it's not as obvious as it should be, but man, if you knew me when I was a little kid, you would not believe how shy I was and really still am. Absolutely.
Yes. Now, Tom says Rand and Phil Donahue had a fun conversation about the universe.
They did, and both of the times Ayn Rand was on the Phil Donahue show are on YouTube.
I need to
You got to watch
those. Yes, I need to rewatch those,
Yes.
and I also need to. I need to reread so much. I'm just going to throw away all of my books and that are not Ayn Rand, and then I just got to reread everything.
Just read Ayn Rand for the rest of your life.
You can do that, actually.
You could, but then you'll never get around to reading The Razor's Edge, and Jim will bring it up, and we'll be like, "Oh, still haven't read it." So, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. What about so I don't know if we really touched on it. What it to do about injustice?
Injustice.
Yeah.
What did I say about injustice?
Yeah.
I got to say happy birthday to Greg. We mentioned that last week that we missed out on having him. We didn't have a birthday cake for him or anything when we celebrated your birthday.
And Mark's birthday.
Not Mark's birthday.
No, Kayla's birthday.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So happy birthday, Greg. And everybody in the chat, say happy birthday to Greg, because Greg is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's Greg is a master bread maker. We're talking about, what is it? Put your bread on...
Cast your bread upon the waters, and it will return to you manyfold. Well,
that's Greg.
A couple weeks ago, it was king cake.
Yes, Greg returns with bread manyfold.
That's
It's
true.
really good.
And I trust you've been enjoying yourself as you've been casting your bread at us, and we have been eating it gratefully. So yes thank you for that. And
yeah, but we've done shows on justice.
Wait a minute. I read that wrong. Greg says today is its birthday.
Yes.
Its birthday. What's birthday?
The universe's.
Oh, the universe's birthday. Yes. That's what we started the discussion with. Yeah, sorry about that. I thought of that because Greg did mention his birthday was this month. And we didn't have him on the April birthdays.
Did you know that the universe...
Happy birthday to you, Universe. Happy birthday to you, Universe. Happy birthday, dear everything.
And what this actually means in the deeper discussion of all of this is that the universe is a Taurus.
A Taurus. That's bull.
It's bull.
If you've heard our shows on gratitude, you wouldn't find this all nearly as silly. But in a way, you would find it even more silly. I live a life of gratitude. I look at the whole universe, especially the man-made universe, the houses and streets and cars and roads and buildings and clothing and food and all of the things that man creates. And I live a life of constant gratitude. And that's a whole different episode, a whole different show. But in saying happy birthday to the universe, it just reminds me, my God, it's great to be alive. What a world.
It's amazing to be alive. It's amazing to be in an organic entity with 5 senses and and reason, and all this. So
yeah, and I know people who would say, but gratitude, who are you grateful to for all of that? Well, obviously grateful for the people who make things, but what about that metaphysical sense of gratitude of just, oh my God, what a great world. What a zillion opportunities. How glad I am to be alive. I don't feel any religious sense about it, like, somebody make me or make all this stuff. But it's similar to a feeling of gratitude. Mm-hmm. But it's really just joie de vivre, a joy of living, passion for life.
Or some may call it Zen or Zen.
Yeah, you would call it that, I guess.
Yes. Just going out into the forest. I mean, I've discussed this before, that I love going out in a forested area on my birthday and just experiencing all of existence. And here it is, all for me.
Sorry, we got people making astrology jokes in the...
Of course, thank you.
Yes. Love it.
Let's see. We have a question here. I don't know if we want to keep going or not, but...
What's the question?
What's your take on psychopaths? They're takers, they're not givers.
I'm against them. I'm not for that. Well, we've got... speaking of the Aaron Brooks show, there's a guy who's been coming up in the chat recently Goes by the name of God knows what his name, Ganubish, whatever. And he's a determinist, and he keeps saying, people are just who they are, and how can you blame somebody if their brain isn't working right, and et cetera, all the usual determinist stuff. And I'm sure he would say, well, psychopaths can't help it. Because and there are in history, there are cases of, they found out some guy had a spike in his brain from some accident and wasn't aware of it somehow. I guess the wound healed over. That's happened to me. I've gotten like a really bad, big, deep splinter that I didn't even know was there. I thought it just hurt because of the wound. And, a couple of weeks later, this thing comes out of your thumb. It's disgusting. But point is, physical world, physical body, and, free will can't change the fact that you've got a railroad spike stuck in your brain. So how do I feel about psychopathy? I'm against it. But it happens. I'm not sure what the question means. What are we driving at there? There are often physical causes, not often, there are sometimes physical causes for the states we're in, sure.
I mean, there is some kind of level of awareness that, I'll say this, that if a person is constantly being told that they are obnoxious or they're a jerk or they're manipulative or whatever it is, they're told that many times over throughout life, they should probably check into it. So are they oblivious to the point where it's completely incurable? I would say no.
I'll say something profound. You come to 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, not just to have fun in the chat, although that's reason enough to be here, but for profundities that you probably won't get from anybody else in philosophy.
True.
Here's a profundity for you when you encounter determinists, or when you just think about this on your own. Physical pathologies, spike in the head. I got a railroad spike in my head. It's made me unusually aggressive. Anything like that, physical limitations, I lost an arm in an accident, whatever the thing is. Those limitations are unusual. That's why we call them pathologies. They're not normal. They are limitations due to some unusual thing. But in a very real sense, those limitations are exactly like limitations from not unusual things, like the fact that I only have 2 arms, no feathers, I can't fly at will. Well, of course you can. That's your nature, and that's normal for a human being. Point is, you have a certain nature, given just the limits of, I can see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, but nothing outside of that. I can't see ultraviolet. I can't see infrared. I can't jump more than 3 feet off the ground. I can't levitate. I can't do 1,000 things based on the limitations of my body. And the limitations of my consciousness. My mind slows down if I've been awake for more than 18 hours. I have to sleep every night. I have to become unconscious like I'm dead every night. And then halfway through that, my own subconscious does things that I'm not even directing. They call them dreams or nightmares. Point is, you have a nature, you have limitations, whether there's something wrong with you or not. None of that changes the fact that, contra Sam Harris, you are actually driving this vehicle. Mm-hmm. You are actually in control of you, even when your control feels very difficult to find, or when you are, say, so drunk or drugged or just without sleep that you can't even exercise it. Yes, you are finite, you are limited, you have a nature. If something's wrong with you, that's going to impinge on what you normally are. But everything does that. You are what you are and only what you are. Doesn't change the fact that you are a consciousness and a body. Not a consciousness in a body, a consciousness and a body. And you are in control of that. So don't let when Gnuberish or anybody else comes along and says, well, psychopathic people don't have free will, do they? they are dealing with challenges far beyond what I'm dealing with and using my own free will to direct my life. They may well have reached a point where they cannot exercise free will. Hard to imagine that it can't at least be outside looking in at their own consciousness and say, oh, that's crazy, or that's wrong, or that's not what I want, or that hurts, or that's painful, or something, some kind of identity, unless they're completely brain dead. Point is, they got limits. I got limits. Thank goodness I don't have their limits. But despite that, your nature and your nurture, what you've been through, doesn't change the fact that you remain the driver. So yeah, don't let examples of people's pathologies out there convince you that, well, maybe some people don't have free will. It might be that they don't have much control over anything, including their own mind. Doesn't change the fact of the identity of consciousness, of the fact of free will.
And just as a little disclaimer, we're not psychologists or psychiatrists, and we don't have any phony degrees in that. It's as far as I understand, psychopathy, or somebody who is a psychopath, oftentimes lacks what in objectivism we call the emotional mechanism. So they're not able to feel empathy. They're not able to feel at all. They don't have the kind of biological feedback when someone is, well, for instance, they don't have the biological feedback of, say, when they're doing something really heinous and destructive, and they're watching somebody die in front of them because they're murdering them or whatever it may be. They don't have. There's a disconnect between their biological emotional mechanism and their values and their actions. I don't know exactly how it all works out. I'm sure it's different for a lot of people. I know I've known people who were bipolar, for instance, including somebody who was close in my family, who really, it was very hard for them to understand at the time that they were manic, for instance, what to do rationally. And later on, they reflected and they thought, I should have done that. But, they have some level of awareness. And that's why I think it is proper if you want to think about this in terms of what the government should do, it's proper to say, if somebody robs a bank or whatever it is, because they're manic or whatever it may be, or that might be a factor in this. It might be worth looking into rehabilitation, some kind of psychological program to put them on. And if they're, if they go beyond that and they take somebody's life, I'm not entirely sure of the answers to that. I think it would be a case-by-case basis, but you would certainly keep them away from other people, and jail them or institutionalize them in some way. But that's the only answers I've got there for that. So no, I'm not a psychologist or a criminologist. Thank you very much. But
some people have limits.
Yeah.
Just kidding. All of us have limits. Again, yes, there is a whole range there. And that range does not imply any kind of determinism. Well, people lower in the range have deterministic minds. Yeah, you may have a mind, you may have a brain, whatever is responsible for consciousness, and that mapping is controversial as well. Well, I say you, obviously none of you wouldn't be watching this show if you were that far gone. That can happen. But all of us have an identity. All of us have limitations. You'll say, well, free will doesn't mean that I can, and then they name something metaphysically impossible. Yes, that's right. All free will means is that given what you are, you get to control your choices in that regard. And ultimately, it comes down to whether you choose to focus or not in any given moment, which is what gives rise to the content. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, it's important, if you do have a psychological condition, that you do find help. And if you don't find the right help at first, keep going.
Finding good counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists. Just from the people I know, and limited personal experience, it's difficult. It's hard to find. It's kind of like trying to find kindred spirits. You've got to find somebody who both gets you and is good at what they do. And not all of them are great at what they do.
Right.
But some are, and that's what you need, and it's what you deserve.
And that's why it's important to read up on, like, say, for instance, cognitive behavioral therapy. Read some books about it. Get to understand a little bit better, so that you can then help yourself and helping your counselor, things like that. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the survival of the fittest, as Herbert Spencer mentioned. Well, first of all, the survival of the fittest is kind of circular, because what are we describing as the fittest? Well, they're the fittest for survival. It's really a question of, how does evolution work? Because those people survive, that's why things tend to improve. But within your own individual life, you do the finger pointing thing that a good friend of ours used to do. You, within your own individual life, you get to decide what fit means, because there's a whole range. What are your values, and what would fitness to achieve those values be? And that's what you get to do. You get to decide what survival means. You get to write that script. I grant you permission granted, to live large. Karma, justice, what you put in, you get out of it. And I remember Fireside Theater used to say, if you push something hard enough, it will fall over. They were obviously making a joke about a deep thought there. They had a name for it. I don't remember. If we have any Fireside Theater fans in the audience, you'll remind me what was the name of that principle. Point is, if you push something hard enough, it will fall over. What to do about injustice? You asked about that because it was in the original show title or description. What to do about injustice? When you can fix it, fix it. When you can't fix it, at least say something. But here's the thing. Injustice, why is it even injustice? Because it goes against reality. It goes against the truth. It goes against, say, somebody's virtues. They were good and you treated them bad. Or they were bad and you treated them better than they deserved. It's a clash. It's a clash against the identity of the entity that's acting. And just like if you fill your car's gas tank with water, you'll ruin your car. If you act unjustly towards somebody, you will get similarly good results. People will protest. Well, some people act bad and they're doing really well. Yeah, and they got to live with themselves. God, do you want that? Because you could. You could say, you know what? I'm just going to become a cynic. I'm going to take advantage of people. I'm going to lie. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to steal. I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to be Don Corleone or the President of the United States or whatever example you want to use. You could do that. Do you want that? Do you want the results that come from that? Yeah. Do you want the fact that 99 out of 100 of people who try that end up dead or miserable? Yeah, but that one guy seems like he's doing really well and he lives in a mansion and his family all love him. Do you want that? That is not a recipe for success. That is not a recipe for what you want. What to do about injustice? Be thankful that you are not practicing it. And here's the thing, because it's a 1 in 99 that bad people do well, mostly it's good people do well. It was interesting watching Yaron, where he's reviewing Jordan Peterson talking to Peter Thiel. Most of those billionaires out there, they're billionaires because they made things happen. They did good things. We can find where Peter Thiel is wrong philosophically about something, or Jordan Peterson is wrong philosophically about something. But what is he doing? He's going out there and motivating people and inspiring them. And yeah, he's getting some of it wrong, and that does some harm. But he is out there making things happen. Peter Thiel is creating industries, whole businesses where people are producing and creating. And that is what you want. You don't want injustice. You want to, denounce it when you need to, but here's the main thing you need to do about injustice. Don't engage in it, and when you can, just walk away from it. Don't be part of it. Don't let it get you. Don't let it hurt you. Don't worry too much about the guy who seems to get away with something and has more than he deserves. He's got to look in the mirror every day, and he will pay the price for that in 1,000 ways that you may never see, and you'll think, yeah, he got away with it. No, what to do about injustice is realize justice is weak, justice is lame, justice is impotent. Injustice. I'm saying this wrong. Amy, stop me. Injustice is weak. Injustice doesn't get the result. Injustice doesn't make things happen. Injustice doesn't build. It doesn't produce. Justice is what you want. Justice gets it done. Justice builds and creates and reaches out and creates friendships that are worth something. It creates relationships that are valuable, creates romance that is passionate. Justice, getting and giving what you deserve, is what you want. What to do about injustice? Realize it is weak, it is lame, it is bad. It doesn't get it done. You don't get pepper plants by planting the wrong seeds, by taking dirt and planting a bunch of rusty nuts and bolts. And no, you get pepper seeds you get pepper plants, and ultimately pepper seeds, by planting pepper seeds. You get good results by putting good out there, by being just. First and foremost, just to yourself.
Right.
That's the answer. That is how you leverage causality. The fact that things make sense, and when people do good things, generally good things happen. That is how you leverage causality. That's justice. That is how you leverage causality for fame and wealth and success and good times at the local karaoke bar and good friends that you can spend time with.
Absolutely right. Yeah. And there's so much to say about this. Like I said before, we've done shows about justice. And really my thoughts on that are, if you see somebody who is doing wrong, let them know that they're doing wrong. Say, here, I'm giving you a gift that maybe somebody may not be able to give you. You're wrong. And this is what you're wrong about. And this is what you should be doing instead. And then leave it. Leave it. You're planting seeds. It's up to them now. They're on their own journey. They need to either take your advice or not. And you get to live your own life and not worry about it, because it's not your problem. You can, gosh, I'll just say this. In objectivism, there's a lot of talk about, you must morally condemn. Well, how many times do you need to morally condemn? How many days do you need to do it? How many hours do you need to put into it? You could just do it once. That's good enough. Especially because you're doing it for yourself. You've got to remember that rational egoism needs to be selfish. There's no altruism involved in this. And you don't need to save everybody in the world from somebody. You need to keep living your life. That is the just thing to do. And don't engage with people who are bad people. Don't deal with them. The fact of the matter is, if you're a good person and you're not dealing with them, that is on them. That is their punishment. And oftentimes when I see people who are doing injustice and who are bad people, they are creating their own hell. They are making themselves miserable. You don't need to hit them over the head with a bat. You just leave them be. Let them figure it out for themselves. They're on their own journey. Again, you've got to pay attention to your own life and make it the best it can be, and not try to avoid the misery of trying to change things that you cannot change. That's just.
But I don't want there to be people out there who were bad and got good things. Well, I get that. I totally understand that feeling of being outraged at injustice. But I will remind you that the news is the news because it's unusual.
Yes.
The 99 out of 100 people who are miserable because they are immoral don't make the news. What you see are the exceptions. Those people who, well, I had a boss and, he was a miserable cuss and he treated everybody bad, but he seemed happy and he had a lot of money. Yes, ignore the exceptions. I mean, fight back or whatever when you can, when it's in your self-interest, but you got to learn to take that stuff with a grain of salt. Miserable people, bad people aren't happy.
Yeah.
They got to get up and look in that mirror every day, and even if they think, well, it's a crappy world, I treat people like crap, and I'm not going to let them win. I'm just going to be a lousy person because it's allowed. If they're doing the Dr. Robert Stadler, I'll show them there is no other way to live on earth. They're not happy people. I don't care what kind of car they drive. I don't care what kind of big grin you see on their face when they smack some gal on the ass. These are not happy people we're talking about.
Yep.
And again, I'll tell you, if you want to be that kind of person, you can. That option is open to you. You don't want that. Nobody wants that.
Very true.
Well, nobody should want that. Those rare exceptions are rare exceptions. What you care about is, no, I don't want to be the villain. I want to be the hero. I want to be the good guy.
Yeah.
So you said we could go on, and we've now gone on, I think, longer than any other show we've held.
I don't know. I think we've done an hour and 45 minutes before.
Really? For a show called 5 minutes, this is unusually long, but I see there's still some activity in the chat.
We're throwing in some extra 5 minutes here.
I see somebody on Facebook who's also, I think, on YouTube, but I don't know. Maybe YouTube is giving him trouble too. Eric says, I'm always the hero. Good. That's what you should do. You should, and heroism comes in all sizes. I'm not always grandiloquent and enormous in my heroism. Sometimes it's a quiet heroism. Sometimes it's just doing the right thing when there was a temptation to do the wrong thing, and not go out and kill somebody, but just shortcuts, Yes, by all means, be the hero. And Greg Lewis says, hour and 46. I wonder if he actually looked on our channel and said, yeah, sort by length. Hour and 46. Wow, that must have been...
pretty amazing, yes.
Well, it's usually because, we have such good people in the chat, and we start answering those questions,
but yeah, looking forward, we're going to be able to say hello to Yaron Brook this Tuesday night.
Tuesday night. If you are in Michigan,
Northwood
go up
University.
to Midland, go up to mid-Michigan, and check them out.
Check them out. And it's going to be great. And lots of wonderful things to look forward to. And of course, I'll just say, if you're upset about the political situation, you're very much welcome to write and call your representatives and other people. In the my favorite phrase of this week has somebody, I forget who it was, I'm sorry, but somebody came up with the phrase banana Republicans.
Banana Republicans, that's good. That's
and I've
really
been using
good.
it, and I'm like, oh, this is so good. And the other phrase was Schrodinger's visa.
Schrodinger's visa.
Which is, it's horrible. Yes. And it describes such horror and terribleness.
Yes.
But it's such a clever term.
So I don't think we're going to go to the hour and...
40.
Oh, Greg Lewis says this show is an hour and 47 now.
No.
Really? I'm looking at the show clock, and it's saying an hour and 38.
It's only 7:38.
Yeah. But I don't know. Greg is pretty sharp. He usually knows what he's talking about.
Greg is also very whimsical.
John is always correct, and John says, I think you're 10 minutes off, so...
well, Greg can be, he's an excellent baker, and he's very whimsical sometimes, so that's why we like him.
But he's up against John, and John is always correct.
Yes, it's true.
Actually, John has corrected himself once or twice, which in my mind, makes him doubly correct.
That's right. It gives you...
If he was just going around saying that he was the corrector.
It gives you a lot of...
No, he really is.
Yeah, it gives you corrector cred when you can say sometimes that you're not correct.
And you correct yourself.
So
now you're not only correct, but you were the corrector of your own correction. Maybe that's how the universe started, from nothing. The corrector corrected himself, and boom! Something like that.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us.
So, yes, bottom line, shy people rule the world. No, look at some of those nerds in Silicon Valley. You can tell that they were shy people who found a way to get out of it. If you are prone to comfort or introversion, you may never permanently change that, but you can compensate. You can leverage your reserve for fun and profit, like those guys, because you can build things and make things happen, and not just karaoke parties, although that is a good place to start. Lots of resources in the show notes this week. If you have not seen the YouTube description, it was so long that YouTube said, it's so long, and I had to trim it to make it fit. But definitely the link to Letters of Ayn Rand, to Carrie Ann Biondi's post. I've got entries in there on the Benevolent Universe premise. We've touched on that a bit here, but we've gotten into it on other shows, including our episode Benevolence and the Benevolent Universe premise on the Life on Earth series. A link to that is in the show notes as well. Do we have anything else before we wrap up?
That's about it. Oh. I just want to give a shout out to my man, Manolete.
Manolete. Yeah, we're casual. You notice we're casually dressed today because we did a flamenco performance, rehearsal this morning for next week's performance. And Manolete.
Yes. I'm bringing the Manolete spirit. That's all.
I can't even tell you. If you know who Manolete is, you are a wiser, happier person for it. If you don't, you got to look him up online.
Pyrotechnics and flamenco. That's all I'm going to say.
Good. So, folks, thanks for joining us. Long show, and next week it won't be... I'm not going to make any promises because I haven't decided on the topic for next week. Maybe it'll go on for hours and hours, but probably just 5 minutes or something like it. Thank you for joining us. End of the show, of course, I've got to say, as we did at the beginning, you should support us. Throw money. I'm changing the name of the album to Throw Money.
Money bomb us!
I don't know if you know where that quote is from. The great Todd Rundgren, who I disagree almost always with about politics, but damn, he's a good artist. Even had an album called The Ever-Popular Tortured Artist Effect.
Yes.
Yes, so... I'm changing the name of the album to Throw Money. I really am. Because if you go to robertnasir.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom, you will see a link to PayPal and Patreon. And thank you. Thank you to those of you who are already patrons of the show, supporting us financially every month, keeping these lights on, the studio lit, all of the things that make this show possible. Okay, you don't have any money to give. At least, please help us out by going to YouTube and hitting the like button on this show. It's hitting the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. Wow. That costs nothing. I'm going to get the bottle of water here from
and
France. Where does Fiji water come from?
Fiji?
That's like an island, right? Yeah, in the Pacific.
Who knows? But if you're a conservative friend of ours and you want us to say that there's a war going on, please send us money bombs.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned that earlier. If you are a conservative who is now realizing... Oh my God, Amy and Robert were right the whole time. And I'm sure a lot of you conservatives you're doing that right now as we speak. You can apologize with dollars and cents.
Yes, make amends.
You know what to do. robertnasir.com, go to the bottom of the page, throw some money at us. Meanwhile, folks are already, I think, checking out here, and so we are too. All that's left is for us to wish you all of the success, all of the sexy success, the amazing success, the larger-than-life success that you so richly deserve. Everything we talk about, you're probably already doing all of it. All we can do is hope to inspire you to do even more.